Good morning, friends. I hope you're all doing well. You know, when Darlene and I were out there in nature, Mentone, Alabama in the woods, had a beautiful place. Her father died, left us 20 acres of land, just a beautiful place. It was a call from nature to simplicity, to being natural. And as we built our cabin, we were kind of quirky in the way we did it. I don't have many pictures of that old cabin, but here's one. You know, it's kind of got like a 4 or 5 sided deck. The door is a parallelogram, had a tree growing through the other deck. And inside the house, we had these old scraps of wood, and Darlene used them and cut them and made a little puzzle in the floor. Had a little wood burning stove. We had a lot of natural things. We found like curlicue sticks. We were using those to prop up our shelves. It was and bringing in the hornet's nest. That was a lot of fun, bringing a hornet's nest to decorate the inside of the house. We were going natural. You know, Darlene had implored me to remove the plastic. The plastic was out. I think we crumpled up newspaper to try to insulate the walls. We were on a kick to be natural, and it was good for our minds. It was more of a simple way to live. And this is a picture. Now, by the way, as I talk about spiritualism, my past experience is colored by my perceptions in retrospect. I mean, I'm looking back on it, and I'm saying things that at the time I didn't know. But at the time, it just seemed innocent, it seemed natural, it seemed like it would fit right into our lifestyle, this spiritualistic, New Age thinking. You know, as it turned out, you know, years and years later, this is a picture. We were in Southeast Asia, had been invited to go into a cave. And it sounded great. You know, you go in there in the stalactites and everything, and stalagmites and the beautiful colors and the sounds. Of course, you had to turn a flashlight on to see the colors because it's dark in there. And so we went into the cave, and then the entrance, everything was beautiful. Got into the cave, and these long stalactites, they were poking me in the back because I'm very tall, and the roof of the cave in places was very low, and it was just like a needle, you know, poking me in the back. And then we were up to our knees in mud, and it was just a wet, miserable experience. And all we had were a couple of candles, maybe a flashlight. And I thought, if we ever lose our light source, we're in a lot of trouble. Because I think we walked like an hour and a half back into the cave. I would never find my way out in the dark. Never. And so we had a group, and I was just hoping and praying to see daylight again. And Darlene and I both made the same decision. If we ever got out of there, no more caves. And of course, we didn't stick to that for too many more years because we were in Austria. And then we got an invitation to go down to the salt mines, which is like a railroad car that goes just down and down and down and down and down. And you're a long way down under the earth. And we were both, you know, thinking, if we ever get out of here, never again. Well, that was my cave experience. I don't want to repeat it. Spiritualism was like that cave. Now, an object lesson, you see in an event of life, something in nature, an experience. You see something that represents a spiritual truth. That cave experience was an object lesson for New Age. It sounded fine. It looked at the entrance like it would be very intriguing and beautiful. But once you got inside, it was a dark hole. And to get out without light, when I say light, I mean the grace of God, Christ leading in my life. To get out is an impossibility. A cave without light. You know, and so in the beginning, you know, for me, Darlene was, you know, inviting me to try some of these things. So it was out-of-body experiences, which you sit around, you know, and kind of meditate and try to go into self-hypnotic state, leave your body, get a perspective out and away from your body of different things, out-of-body experiences, astral projection, you know, leaving your body, visiting different places, relaxation techniques. A lot of that was deep breathing, trying to, you know, get in touch with your inner self, and all of these different things. Really, I mean, I can remember sitting around and just trying to relax and, you know, maybe introducing some sort of chant, I am well, I am well, I am well, you know. It just sounded today absurd. Back then, anything would go. We were just interested in finding simple and natural, and it seemed like the alternative methods of healing, the alternative methods of mind cure, the alternative methods of getting in touch with the universal energy, it appealed to us. So we were trying these different things. And the concept Darlene was sharing with me about karma, karma, that, what you do in this life has a determination on where you come for your next life. So the reincarnation of karma went together. In any gross misdeeds you pay for in this life and the life to come. And if you wanted to have good karma, if you wanted to have a bank account, on the positive side, not on the red, if you want to have a good bank account, then you do more good than you do evil. And that kind of balances out. The good works take care of the evil works. And this was like a spiritual bank account. It would help you in this life and the next life to come. And as she told me these things, and as she was sharing about karma, I was thinking, that's just like when I would drink a lot, my jogging. I would get up in the morning. If I'd had 6 beers last night, maybe I'd run 3 miles. But if I had 8 beers, maybe I'd run 4 miles. My health bank account, the more I transgress the health laws, well, it's easy. The more I exercise, it balanced things out. And it doesn't work that way. That's not how it works. So these little things, it just, after a time, it did not seem logical. Now, nature seemed logical, consistent, rational. You see laws in nature, but there were no laws. It was anything goes in the New Age, in the mystical, in the mesmerism, in all these different aspects of this virtual, secondary, supernatural reality. And I asked Darlene, I started to think, if people are communicating with the dead, because that was one of the main aspects of spiritualism, being able to communicate with the spirits of the dead. And somehow you could go into a trance or in some seance or get a Ouija board and there's communication back and forth between the living and the dead. And I said, what if you're getting reincarnated, right? If you're going into a different body and people are dying and then going back into some other life form, then who are you talking to? Is there a waiting line to get reincarnated? And these are the ones that you speak to in these spiritualistic trances? It made no sense. And then Darlene told me. She said, there are no rules. There are no limitations, no boundaries. Anything goes. And I thought, that's relativism. In the biblical world today, they have in the world today, in philosophy, there is a worldview called relativism, which basically it means there is no right and there is no wrong. What's right for you may not be right for me. My world, I dictate the right and the wrong. It's the law according to me, not according to anything else. No limitations, no boundaries, anything goes, ain't no right, ain't no wrong. That's the New Age. I thought, that's wide open. That's anything goes. For me here, I'm in Tennessee. I read the Bible, Genesis 2:24. Man's going to leave his mother, leave his father, cleave unto his wife. These two shall become one flesh. Now here, I believe one man, one woman. But in Guinea, and I worked there, it's, a man can have 5 wives. That's polygamy here. But there, it's just a way of life. It's relativism, that there is no universal transcendent law applicable to all people in all places at all times. It doesn't exist. You pick and choose what's right for you. No limitations, no boundaries. That's relativism. The principles that don't change. Cultures change. But the principle of safety doesn't change. You may, in the school zone here in Tennessee, we drive 30 miles per hour. You go to Europe, France or England, they have schools. You can drive by the schools. You're not driving 80 miles an hour by those schools. They see the principle safety. They see to keep it safe for the children, you got to slow down when you drive by the school. It's universal. In the sky, the plane goes 600 miles per hour. The principle remains as safety. The application is different because the environment's different. The situation is situational application. The situation is different. When you go to the moon, you can go, 17,000 miles per hour. But, out here in the country road that runs in front of my cabin, you don't want to be driving 17,000 miles per hour. You might hit me. But in this relativistic New Age spiritualism, there were no boundaries and everybody chooses what's right and wrong for themselves. And Darlene, as she was reading some of these books by Edgar Cayce, by the way, this is the third in a little series on spiritualism. You ought to go back to the 2 videos prior to this one and watch number 1 and number 2. But the Darlene, she told me, and she wasn't a Christian when this was happening. She said the last straw for her on Edgar Cayce is she was reading a book about Christ, his disciples, and some of the conclusions that Cayce was drawing, not only about the biblical picture of the disciples in Christ, but about him and who he thought he was. And she said that's the last straw. She knew that wasn't right. It was God speaking to the heart of that spiritualistic woman, because she, again, was entrenched in spiritualism. But the Lord was helping her to see the fallacy of these views and ideas that when brought home to the Bible and applied to Christ, Christ is going to be reincarnated as something else. That's ridiculous. The creator of the universe, Christ, John 1:3, all things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. He made everything. There's redemption, there's a restitution, there's forgiveness, there is a hope of something better to come. And when you bring in these New Age principles, it shatters all that. Or either the truth shatters a New Age. And the Lord was working slowly but surely to help us to see the faults in the reasoning of New Age philosophy. I had this friend, and he told me one day, Darlene and I were visiting with him and his wife, and he told me one day that I was a disciple called by Christ. Now again, I was not a Christian at this time. I was anything but a Christian. And I said, I'm a disciple called by Christ. I said, well, look, if I'm one of Christ's disciples, I'll go ahead and let Christ tell me that instead of you. And then he looked at me and he said, I am Christ, and I'm telling you, you're called. Again, a non-Christian reaction to that. I thought, this is lunacy. Something has taken hold of that man's mind, the dark cave that I do not want to go back into. A victim of the dark cave. And it's not stalagmites poking you in the back. These are thorns that wound your mind. And then we started talking, and he brought up the subject of there is no right and there is no wrong. And it made no sense to me then as he applied it, because I said, listen, there's your wife. You're telling me there is no right, no wrong? He said, that's correct. What's right for you may not be right for me. Each man chooses his own morality. I said, well, what if I were to kill your wife? And to me, that's right. He said, well, that'd be right. And I knew that was wrong. And I could see, maybe at the time I couldn't see, but I could see where this was leading. And slowly but surely, and it took a while. This was not an overnight process. This was years. It slowly but surely began to make sense. It slowly but surely began to dawn on us that maybe we should rethink some of the things we're doing and getting involved in, because we were getting deeper and deeper and deeper into the cave, and it was getting darker and darker and darker. God bless you, my friends. You have a good day.